So I moved out of my parents' house last year, and I've been living alone now for 5 months. And I don't know, I think living alone is pretty cool, honestly. I don't make enough money to be living alone. I am struggling right now, but I think living alone is pretty cool. I think it's mostly because my parents were very strict when I was little. So now having all this freedom, it feels so refreshing. It feels so nice. Even though I'm not really doing crazy stuff, like I'm not going out to bars every week, I'm not like just bringing crazy people over to my house. Like I'm pretty calm, but just the fact that I can leave whenever I want, I don't have to tell anyone. The fact that I can come back whenever I want and I don't have to tell anyone. Like it feels so good being an adult. I know it is hard. Like I relate to a lot of those people as like, "Oh, I have to like do adult things now," and I hate them too, but I think it's worth it. I don't know. I think it's worth it for me at least. I really like just being independent, and just even the thought of like moving back in with my parents like stresses me out and frustrates me, and I'm like I can never go back. Like I will literally take a second job just so I can stay independent. I will never want to go back. I just really like it so much. And recently I had the talk with my landlord because we had to renew our contract, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to renew it?" And I just like stayed there and I paused because I contemplated like I have so little money now. Like I don't have enough money to be spending ever. I need to be buying all these things. I need to be paying all these bills. And if I know that if I move back in with my parents, which I'm sure they would let me move back in, but if I ever decide to do that, I know that my freedom would just plummet. Like I will now be just to my regular ass routine of just going to work and never doing anything, which is kind of what I do now. But now, whenever I just like randomly want to go out one day, I can and I do, and I don't have to be telling people, and it feels so nice. So, yeah, short, long story short, I'm still staying here even though I am miserable and I have no money to be spending. But hopefully things will get better soon. On a different note, I wanted to talk about dating and how it feels so much better now. I know I talk a lot about dating, but you have to give it to me. I have no one to talk about this with. And I don't really like talking about this with my sister because I'm always like, she's gonna tell my mom and she's gonna tell like everyone. My family's very nosy, so I tell them as least as I can. Like I don't tell them anything about my life, okay? They didn't even know that I was moving out. Like 5 months ago, they were like, where's this girl? Like where did she go? And my mom was like, oh yeah, she moved out. Yeah, so no one really knew. And one thing, I don't really have anyone to talk about when it comes to dating. So I tell you guys because no one's watching these, so what the fuck. Um I really like dating now that I live by myself. I did date a couple of times when I did live back home, and I would always sneak out even though I don't think my mom would have gotten mad at me if I told her like, oh, I'm going on a date. But I'm those people that I hate the idea of someone knowing too much about me. I always just say like specific things and never give people the full story about what happened. Like I'm always like, oh, like, like if I went out yesterday and I went to this restaurant, I just tell them, oh yeah, I went to this restaurant, I grabbed this. Like I don't tell them what happened, or like maybe I was talking to someone, maybe I was with someone that day. I don't know. I like to keep my life very private, and even though I'm doing these like video diaries, I still keep a lot of my life private. I always found that a lot better than to just be telling people everything about yourself, because I feel like that's also kind of boring when someone knows everything about you. And my family can agree. Like whenever I like tell my family something that happened to me, they're always so intrigued, even if I'm like talking about the most like basic subject, like the most mundane thing that I did. Since I never talk about my personal life, they're always so intrigued when I tell them something. And like I feel like it makes you more of an interesting person when you have so much left to say and when you don't really talk much about yourself. And it also gives you a lot more information about other people. that kind of makes me sound suspicious, like I'm collecting intel. But you know, like when, at least I have this for experience, and I know a lot of people that are also quite introverted and don't talk much also have these experiences. But a lot of times people will just tell you things. Like people will just tell you their whole life story, their most traumatic moments, and you weren't even asking. Didn't even know they were going to say that, and you're like, oh, okay, now I know this very personal thing about you. And yes, I know a lot of personal things about a lot of people, and sometimes it is very awkward because we're just sitting there in silence, and then they start telling me their like most traumatic story that has ever happened in their life, and they're expecting me to give them like advice or for me to say something, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like, what do you want me to say? I had no idea I was now a psychologist, you know. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was my self-confidence. I don't know why. I'm sure that has nothing to do really about me moving out of my house and more to do with me just growing as a person. But my self-confidence has really skyrocketed over the past year, even, I think, or even less. I feel like even the past couple of months, I feel like I am a lot more confident. I'm like wearing clothes that I would have never worn in the past. And I'm someone that really likes clothes, but I never really bought clothes. I don't really have a lot of clothes. But it was mostly because back then I would just hate buying pretty clothes for me. I never felt like good enough or pretty enough to wear these things. So I would only buy like t-shirts and like leggings, and that's it, or like sometimes even like sweatpants, and that's it. Like I didn't even have jeans because I thought jeans didn't look good on me. I bought dresses, but I never wore dresses. Like I love dresses, but back then I would never wear them. I would just buy them and keep them in my closet and be like, this is too pretty for me to wear. And now that I feel a lot more confident in myself, I find myself even in like days where I'm not really doing much, like maybe I'm just gonna go run some errands, I'm like, I want to wear this and that, and I'll put together like a whole outfit, and I'll feel so good about myself even though I'm like at the grocery store buying eggs or something. Like I feel so much better about myself when I look good. You know, when I think that I look my best is when I feel my best. And back in the day, that never really happened because I would always wear the exact same clothes. I never really cared about the way that I looked because at the end of the day, I always thought like, oh, like I never really look good even if I try, so why would I try? But I don't know if just moving out kind of changed that mentality of mine, because now that I live by myself, I don't really have anyone that's critiquing me and the way that I dress, because now I put on something and I like it and there's no one else here with me, so as long as I like it, like no one's gonna really comment on it. So when I wear something and I go out, also no one really says something unless there's like creepy men around, but you know, creepy men are everywhere. Kind of sucks. Yeah, but I think that also stems a lot from just trauma, like childhood trauma. I know a lot of Latina women can relate about your mother just critiquing everything you wear and everything you do, and it's sad, but it's true. And I never really realized that until I moved out, because now I wear something, and it did take me a while to get to this point, but like back in the day, my mom would always comment about my legs, and I was really insecure about my legs. But now that I live by myself, and now that I wear more dresses, like I'm showing off my legs, and I feel a lot more confident in it because no one's really commenting on it. Like I'll be showing off my legs and no one really says anything. So for me, that's just, I feel like that really like helped me boost my self-confidence. But yeah, it's something that I just realized recently, because I had a dress in my closet. I never wore it. It's one of the prettiest dresses I had, and I never wore it. It's like this black dress with like this really nice black lace, and it's so pretty. It has some pink in it, and I was always like, I'm gonna wear this dress, but every time I would even like try and put it on, I'm like, no, it's too short, it shows too much of my legs. But recently I put it on and I loved it. Like I knew I was gonna love that dress. I always loved that dress. I always loved how it looks, and I always knew it was gonna look good on me because that's kind of like the silhouette that I go for, and I feel like that silhouette kind of looks nice on me. And I put it on and I love the dress. And I think I realized it then that, you know, even maybe I have changed a little bit. Maybe I have lost some weight ever since living with my parents, but I don't think it's that significant where you're like, oh my god, like she's a completely different person. I feel like I still look the same. So I know that if I had more self-confidence back then, I would have loved the dress back then as well. But I feel like it stuck with me for so long, so I can get to this point where I could just wear it and not have to like constantly be fixing it or constantly be doubting like what are people saying about me, or constantly be like thinking like, oh, is this like appropriate, like, oh, is this good. It's not even like a scandalous dress, but you know, when you're very self-conscious about yourself, you're always thinking of the way you're perceived by others, and you're always thinking that everyone is judging you. That's just how you think when you don't really have a lot of confidence. But now I think I'm getting a lot better at it, and I'm very thankful for it, because now I get to buy a lot more cute clothes and put on a lot more cute clothes and feel really nice about myself. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The moral of the story, or I don't know, what I learned from this is that living by yourself is difficult, but sometimes it is worth it, because you gain a lot of life experience, you get a lot of independence, and sometimes you just have to get away from toxic people in your life in order for you to be more confident. That is the moral of today's story. Hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye bye.